Welcome back to Inside the Box. I'm Joanna Lee, and in the third episode of the Behind the Scenes series, we have a special surprise with one of Vancouver's most sought-after yoga teachers and a Lululemon Ambassador. He teaches at top venues such as Equinox, Jaybird, and House Concepts. He has a rapport of helping his students overcome injuries by being attentive and is well-versed in facilitating rehabilitation. It is my absolute joy to welcome my yoga teacher, Matt Caza.
Hi.
Hey, Matt.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
It's bad. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you. Welcome to my show, and thank you for being with us. So let's begin with your origin story.
Okay, long one. Well, yeah, back in the day, I was pursuing a career in hockey, and we used to train 5 days a week. So we kind of came into yoga actually. My mom brought me to my first class, and we kind of used it as an active recovery day. I practiced for a couple of years, and then I got a few injuries in yoga, so I figured I'd avoid it. Just focus on hockey. But coming up to my last camp, I fractured my ankle really bad beforehand, so I came back in to re-strengthen and restabilize, and sort of fell in love with it again with fresh eyes. I'd been teaching group fitness for about 6 years before, so practiced for another year or so, and then did some trainings. That's what I do for a living.
Wow, that's awesome. So yeah, we're very fortunate to, I was very fortunate to have met you at Equinox as my yoga instructor. How did you, overcome all of your injuries, especially the concussion and the fractures?
A lot of patience. I had one of my teachers in the beginning, I just off the shoulder thing, and she said injuries are very humbling. There was an opportunity to learn and kind of refresh and build from the ground up. So I've also had a lot of help along the way. My mom's was physio, so she's been putting me together for my entire life. But in terms of concussion, a little bit more of a difficult one. Back when I was feeling under, I was about 3 months, and the treatment wasn't the same as it is now. Now they encourage you to kind of restart your brain activity, use it sort of as a muscle, but at the time I just sit around and do nothing. So,
I remember those days.
yeah, so basically it was a pretty dark period, but thankfully my family was there to support me. All my emotions were out of whack. I'm sure I wasn't the nicest person to be around, but they were there to support me, and I'd say yoga certainly helped too, just in terms of not letting those thoughts spiral you down, kind of take them as an opportunity to look into your mind and see what's going on, break down those barriers, but definitely wouldn't recommend it, not the easiest thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there are preventative measures to not get into that state, I suppose.
I'm not taking a beating every day, so yoga seems to be a lot more peaceful. Yes.
For sure. So, what was your most influential place when you were living abroad and teaching?
They all had their own unique kind of influence on me. I spent the most time in Australia, so I would say that had the biggest impact. I worked at a great studio there called Power Living, and they had a constant feedback for the teachers throughout. If you went to anyone's class, you had to stay after different points. So just having that constant response from peers was great. Not that student feedback isn't great as well, but it's nice to have someone, who also teaches, tell you certain things, like if you're saying something too much or if the flow isn't right. I also worked at a few other studios there, did a number of trainings, kind of smaller ones. I spent a lot of time in Bali as well. I did a meditation retreat there. That was one of the hardest things I've ever done. It was similar to Vipassana, but not quite as strict. We were in silence, no eye contact, that sort of thing, but it was a little more of a learning experience. The two facilitators were amazing. They taught us techniques and how to incorporate it to our own. Just sort of the idea that meditation is always going to be peaceful. Sometimes you're sweating, sometimes it's, it can be happy, anxiety inducing. It's everything it needs to be, right? Your job is to sit and observe. So certainly moving into teaching meditation afterwards, I felt a lot more comfortable and grounded. And sitting for 8 hours a day was incredibly difficult. So.
Absolutely. So speaking of teaching, what inspires you as a teacher?
I'd say it's a lot to do with the students. Knowing that what I'm doing is making an impact in their day-to-day life, whether it's a physical thing or a mental thing, is very rewarding and makes it easy to come to work. It doesn't really feel like a job. I've always been very passionate about teaching. I was coaching hockey too while I was playing, and I was been an instructor for a long time, a trainer. Just knowing that what you're doing is making a difference and having an impact. It's very, that's all the validation I need. It's nice to get paid for it for sure. But even if I was doing something else, I'm sure I'd be still teaching in some vicinity. Just the community as well that it generates. I've met so many amazing people throughout my teaching and all across the world. It's been really, as much as I feel like, I'm benefiting off it, I hope that other people are taking a lot out of it as well. It's, really cool to just leave a positive impact. Or try to.
Absolutely, for sure. So, based on your experience, how should one approach teaching?
Well, I'd say it's more about the student than yourself. That's kind of the first thing I notice when I go to a class is the teacher's there teaching to be on that kind of platform, or if they're there to help the people in the room. And you want to break down whatever idea or philosophy that you're giving to the most simplest form, and then let it grow with that student. So kind of just giving them tools they need to come to these revelations on their own, whether it's something within their body or a mindset or thought. It's basically you want to be like a catalyst for them.
Absolutely.
You find your own truth that resonates.
It's very humbling, and it sounds like you also learn from the students as well as yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I always want to think how I can be better as a teacher. And now we have smaller classes, so it's a little easier to pick out. But I know there's a room of 50, 60 people, and if one person I can see is not into it, it kills me all class. I'm trying to walk around and get them to do it. But that's what's nice about the group environment. There's an energy in the room. If people are moving together, you can just feel it. Some classes you teach and you think that was the worst thing ever, but your students really loved it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you think you're absolutely dialed in and maybe they didn't enjoy themselves. It's a constant humbling process. But I think just being open every time in the room, it's always going to be different, even if you teach the same sequence every day. So I try to keep it a lot of variety in there, but just making sure you're present. You're just focused, being there for the room.
Absolutely, that's incredibly important because you're trying to engage with your students and have them interested.
Yeah, it's a give and take, right?
Exactly. It must have been a challenge during lockdown, though.
Yeah. I taught a bit online and I did a few events, but just, very strange. One, not being able to see people once you have their camera off, and then, but I remember I taught, it was like a few countries were involved, and I logged in, and once you start teaching, I can't really see the screen. I had to set it up far away so you can see the whole practice. So I don't know who was on it. There was a couple hundred people, and then when it ended, they all just logged off. And so I hope if you took that class, that's good. Didn't see after, but the in-room connection is really important to me. And we'll see how the world goes and adapt as it needs to. But
absolutely,
I certainly prefer being there with people.
In person.
Take what we can get.
Well, that's good. You're malleable, and you can definitely adjust to the environment.
Yeah. Fluid thing, right? Always something new.
I can totally relate. So, what is your personal experience when practicing yoga, and what are your go-to poses?
Well, speaking of fluidity, practice is a constantly changing thing. When I first started, I came in for physical needs, as most people do. And then it's kind of progressed to incorporate the whole aspect, mind, body, breath, circle awareness. I still love to do flow. Party tricks are cool too, but my own practice has shifted to mainly based. So I just have bolsters and straps and poles at home. Part of that comes with teaching every week. There's a lot of physical exertion, even if you try to do less. You're on your feet all day. Certainly from teaching fitness for so long, and obviously tending to all the old injuries. They never really leave you. So you
never really do, especially when you're an athlete or a musician.
Separate both knees, rotator cuffs, ankles, everything. So, but it's good. It keeps you disciplined. When I do go for those more physically exhaustive activities. I like to do things that, I can do again for a while. So like hockey, I like to play a couple times a week. And snowboarding, I like to get out. This year, probably not, because my groin's a mess. But yeah, no, it's just, training a lot more than I used to. Well, after taking a break for a while. So yeah, it's a great tool to facilitate things you want to do. I want to be running around and doing crazy stuff till I'm 90, so, maybe taking these steps now and putting the energy back into the body is the important thing. Yeah, so that's basically what my practice has mainly become, and I try to meditate as much as possible as well. Once a day, 5 minutes is good.
So it sounds like you're saying generally it's investing in yourself, investing in your future by taking good care of yourself and being able to give back to others in that sort of way. Yeah,
well, if you're, this is the exact quote, you can't fix somebody else's house until you make your own statement. So if, emotionally, physically, your energy is not there, it's very hard to give actual help to people. Right?
You're right.
There's a way of reaching out and trying to band-aid everything and make yourself feel better. That's not the intent of it. It's to, make sure everything within you is resonating well. You have a lot more energy and a lot more ability to help others. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I like that philosophy. Yeah. So I was wondering, how do you choose the music for your class?
Well, I produce SoundCloud for hours and hours. So I look for sounds. Certain, just I don't want the music to be distracting. It needs to be a complement to the practice. So it's funny now when I hear a song, I immediately go, can I use that in class? And where would it fit in? Is it a starter? Is it an ender? Is it like a cool down? Is it a movement song? I've always loved music. It's been back in hockey, I was always the DJ in the locker room. Anytime we had a party, I'm putting my phone in.
Nice.
But throughout that, I would always curate stuff. As a kid, I had a huge music library, so I still have some old songs I use. But using the same music every week, you gotta switch it up, right? I think I have 40 playlists on my phone. I still download all my music. I'm a dinosaur. But I can't have it cut out of me. It's my work tool, right? So it's funny. After class, I was asked what's Spotify? I'm like, I don't use Spotify. And they look at me like a crazy. But no, I also sometimes I'll have a song and I want to edit it a bit because either I'll have an intro or an end that doesn't stay with the flow of the class, so I can chop it up that way. But I'll make a playlist and I'll always make sure I either practice or just meditate to it or play on listen to it to make sure the rhythm is right. Because in a flow, it kind of goes up and smooths out, but it's the same way, just on a lower scale. So it has to make sense to me. So if I'm breathing and moving with it, I can tell if it needs to move later or it's cut. And then for class too, I each list I can kind of, once I know it, I can feel where it's going. And when I hear a certain song come on, I know okay, I've got around this much time left. How many poses can we fit in? So I think that's just from doing this for so long. It's a pretty extensive process, but it makes a difference because if something's off in the room, I always notice it first. And if I notice it, I know someone else can. So whether that's lighting or it's too loud or the song doesn't work or it's distracting. So I try to keep the lyrics to a minimum, more instrumentals. So I find producers, SoundCloud is a great tool for that. As an artist hasn't made it big. I have some songs that I use all the time that, when I first downloaded, they had 300 plays. Just put that sound, just hit me, I gotta do that one.
So you know exactly what you want in order to sort of, I guess it's like choreography.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got to follow the flow and the rhythm of the class. My friends call me picky. I say I'm particular, but I think I'm notoriously picky. But I guess particular. It needs to be right. So,
So there's someone else's music, and you just sort of put up together like a playlist?
I'll either buy it from them, or sometimes I get free downloads or whatever it is, or I'll go out of my way to make sure I have it. But
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
What would you say the genre of your music falls under, generally speaking?
Like everything, it's pretty varied. A lot of it is, I guess you could call like lo-fi. a little bit, but I just, for me, if it's musically sound, I don't really care what genre it is. I have some stuff, that's more mainstream, like Rangbin or producers, like, very obscure. I'm not even gonna say that. It's gonna take too long. I don't sound like an hipster, but just if it sounds right, it sounds right. But for yin, it's definitely a little moodier, kind of low and a lot of bass. But I want those sounds to take you deeper into your body, right? So you're in a room where the sound is good, and it can really help facilitate a better experience. So. But I also really enjoy practicing without music. That was most of my training, was just breath in the body. And I think nowadays it's expected of you at a studio to have music, so I want to use it in the best way I can. And I think it adds a lot to my class, but it's also great sometimes when speakers go out and you tell people like, hey, just focus on your breath today. And then their eyes go like, what? I have to do that. So I think both is very important.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So going on to the next question, what are the benefits in practicing yoga?
There's a very long list. I think what separates from other disciplines is that full kind of mind-body breath awareness. I've trained for a long time. Getting your body's physically great is great, but I think yoga gives you a little more room to be accountable for everything, right?
Absolutely.
So what's going on in your head, and a lot of the time, especially meditation, you want to push away those, distracting thoughts. We want to be peaceful, we want to be zen, but that's not the practice. It's observing yourself as you are. There's no right or wrong. There's no like yes or no. It's getting away from that sense of duality. It's just what is and what are you going to do about it. So oftentimes, if you get distracted or those difficult things, that's where you learn the most about yourself. Or you can come up with a new idea or a new way to move. Physically speaking, we're releasing the major muscle groups, which we overuse all the time, strengthening our stabilizers to support it. So when you get back to whatever it is you're doing, your movement is more efficient, it's more stable. And the same thing can go with your thoughts, those main thoughts that are always bugging you, you break down, you get to the little issues, and you can see what you need to shed and what you need to add on, and kind of all together.
That is true. I have experienced that in your class, and I would definitely say that when you instruct us, right? It's a tone where it brings us back to focus. So how would you say how did you think of that? How did you?
These ideas aren't all my own, right? It's like the yoga practice is really cool. There's just so many different disciplines. Even my own training, my one teacher was a big Ashtanga yoga, one was power and yin guy. The other guy was all about movement and tune up, rolling out, all that stuff. Their message to us was take what resonates from our practice to yours, don't copy us. Which, unfortunately, when you get in a huge group for training, it's hard to facilitate all those people. So oftentimes I say, this is what you think, this is what you teach, try to give you a sequence. So, I think it goes on you as a teacher to expand, learn as much as you can. There's so many great philosophies. Richard Freeman was big influence on me. He's a Ashtanga teacher, but it doesn't have to be limited to yoga, right? Essentially, what we're trying to teach or get down to is, like truth. There's a different word for it. You can be religious about it. You can have the Tao Jin or the Tao, as it's spelled, is like the most succinct, clean version of it I've found. And I bought that book and given it to 15 different people. It was a plot given to me by one of my mentors. And just that message is in everything. There's a certain way to things. If you want to learn anything, if you want to work towards something, if you state like that kind of fundamental notion. So for me, I try to take all that information in, and when something is true, you don't really have to memorize it. It hits home and it stays with you. So in class, there's certain things I'll repeat because I want people to learn it. I want to stick. But in that space, sometimes those notions come out, or whatever I'm reading the day before, or whatever it is. It's what I find relevant to the class at that particular time. Especially right now, there's so many things going on. It's a crazy world.
100%.
I try to not bring people's attention to all that too much, but sometimes I just need to say like, hey, this is you for an hour. This is your space.
Yeah.
Do what you can with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and I do.
Great. I'm glad it's working. Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, what are the injuries that are most common amongst musicians and athletes, and what are, the best poses for these said injuries?
Yeah, I think, I mean, it depends on your discipline. You're a violinist, right? So a lot of your stuff is going to be up in the shoulders, neck, tight, but also hips because you're sitting a lot.
Yeah.
I think those are generally the two areas that people have the most issues with. You don't have to be an athlete to have problems there. Like just you're sitting in an office chair all day, right?
Absolutely.
So just, before I get into the poses, with injuries, unless you break your leg or something, generally those soft tissue injuries are built up over time. Right? You're doing a similar movement pattern, you keep doing it, the body will adapt. Your body will adapt to however you're using it. It's going to figure out a way. But at a certain point, the tension is too much. And when you move in a certain way or you do an activity and see you later, right? So, for you being up here all day, like your neck is sore, it's tight, right? So whether it's a lingering pain or a serious injury, depends what you do along the way. So with yoga, we're getting into that focus of the feel of the body. So we tend to numb these areas we use all the time, because if not, we wouldn't be able to do anything, right? So from a young age, your body learns how to stand, and then you just do it. Because if you have to think about it, you can do anything else, right? It'd be so oh my God. So yeah, we get numb, but in that process, these tensions build up. So when we get into them in class and feel them the first time we do it, it's tough. It's very difficult, which is why yin practice is very tough and it takes time to get into. Once you get past that kind of first layer, it's the best thing ever because you can feel these areas again.
Absolutely.
You're not afraid to feel it, and then you learn how to move them. You can rehabilitate yourself along with any treatments you might need, and physio and whatever support is out there. But in terms of poses, I got a couple good ones. Yoga straps are a great tool. I'll show you guys.
Sure. At the end, I guess?
Yeah.
Sure. Perfect. That would be great.
Poses.
Do you have any upcoming projects this year?
Well, this year's been, getting back, so we'll see what they say the next month or so in terms of returning to whatever new reality we settle into. But I've been with Lulu for 2 years as an ambassador. Well, this is my second year. Unfortunately, just because of all the restrictions, we haven't been able to do too much in terms of events. We got some cool things on the side and smaller little projects, but it'll be great to get back in the community again. So that's the original reason I really wanted to do that program, is to get involved and see what we can do. So hopefully line up some big community events, maybe some charity things if we have time, and then. But in terms of everything else, I'm just getting back to the day to day. It's nice right now to be in the studio every day again. I don't know. I'm not much of a planner, I guess.
You go with the flow.
Well, I used to be a planner, and I was going to be a hockey player. I was going to be a lawyer at some point. The plan kind of, flies better than like went to shit. So.
It's okay.
But then just been not winging it. That's not the proper term, but being prepared for the opportunities in front of me and trying to take full advantage of them. So, going to Australia was kind of on a whim. I was away for a month, stayed for over a year and a half. And I traveled on the way home, went to all these different countries, tried living around. And even Vancouver, I came here the first time in 2010. The Olympics came out with my mom. We just partied for 2 weeks. I want to live here one day.
I was there too. I did do that.
Right?
In 2010.
But,
I gotta come back and live in the city.
So I've been back 5 or 6 times. And even leaving Australia, my friends there, well, I'm gonna try Amsterdam for a bit, try Japan, and then I'm gonna go to Vancouver at some point. I came home and I agree with now's a better time than ever. It's been home ever since. So I'm gonna keep on keeping on.
Absolutely. So it's interesting that you mentioned your role as a Lululemon Ambassador. Can you tell us more about it?
It's more of a partnership. That's how we like to look at it. There's obviously, you get some calls and stuff, which is great, but if you're running anything in the community, they're there to support you, and staff come up to events, and I work with them to whether it's giving product to people or just getting a message out or donating money to good cause. Obviously we haven't been able to explore it to its full boundary, but even before the pandemic, one of the best classes, or not best classes, but most fun I've had teaching, we did at Concord Pacific, and went on 600 people outside.
Oh wow!
It was a beautiful part of their summer series. We were supposed to do it in the Jack Pool Plaza by the torches, but we got rained out. But I've always taught with Lulu since back when I first started, just community classes, and that's honestly how I got my footing in Australia as well. I knew someone from a store in Ottawa, and I met them in Sydney, and then they're like, oh, I know this girl works at a store in Perth, and then I went there and I taught one class for them, and I got 2 teaching jobs right away. So I'll always appreciate their community, how they're rooted in. Actually, I worked at a store very briefly when I was in Perth, Australia, is where I was living. And funny thing about Perth is I'm from Ottawa, and it's the furthest place on the planet from Ottawa. There's no I forget the territories. I looked up, I got there, I could not have moved further away. Yeah. And when I went, my friend was managing the store. She's like, you should come work. And the pay was really good. But the girl who trained me was in my program in school in Ottawa, a couple years older. And then another girl joined us, and she also was in our program. We all ended up in this small town in Western Australia. It's a very small world. So I think just another layer of connectivity. It's really cool. So happy to be a part of their team for now, and hopefully we can keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're back in Lululemon's home base, Vancouver.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty cool. There's a lot more opportunity. I've done stuff, certain projects at the SEC and development stuff, which is really cool, which you can do in another town. So very honored.
That's awesome.
Absolutely.
There you go. So with the way of the world today, how can we bring in cultural diversity and openness to society, especially during these times? And
it's I've been fortunate to live a lot of places. Even growing up, I went to Catholic school, private school, very diverse, lower income middle school and high school, and I got to see a lot growing up, and a lot of people don't often get to be outside of their bubble. And I think for me, I just I try to treat everyone like they're anyone. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
There's so much to learn from someone, and we all basically want the same things. It's so I think having that respect first for your fellow being is of utmost importance. Right now, it's interesting. There's a lot of frustration, obviously, and people are working through their own issues with the world, and it's a difficult time. So I think just having the ability to step back from what you're going through, observe it, not judgmentalize, just take it for what it is, and then knowing that if you're being slighted by someone or something, and generally there's a reason for that person acting in that fashion.
Yeah, it's not
likely not about you.
Yeah.
So I think being compassionate in your approach, and not taking things too personally. I feel like nowadays we call it what was me type of deal, right? But everyone's got their issues. We're all going through it. We're all trying to make it, and
absolutely.
Suffering is very relative. If you're going through something, it takes over. It's paramount. Even if it's a small problem with someone else, it can be a very big problem for you. So it's just being open to the people around you.
And how do you overcome the challenges? For instance, your injuries led you to something that you had no idea would be something great for you, and it's opened up a whole difference in the world.
No doubt. I mean, it can be very tough at times, right? I think we're always looking for validation too, and it's random, took all this, this world, right? That's a snapshot, right? Even when I was traveling, like people see the pictures, you see it, like, oh, it's a good time. Yeah, it was an amazing time. But no, there was like moments where I was totally breaking down. Or, one day I lost my passport, wallet, all these other things. I was moving to a new apartment. I lost this woman's keys that I just moved in. I couldn't even walk stuff with her wallet, so I lost mine. I ended up finding it in the dumpster later, but but just getting lost, or conflict, or I got really sick when I was away, and it's just you gotta in that situation. You have your family and friends, phone call away, but
absolutely.
Basically it's on you. You gotta figure it out. You gotta always be there, support yourself. So it's easy to point a finger when you're going through something like
absolutely.
This is why this is happening as well, but you gotta take responsibility for your actions. So I think if you understand the weight of the consequences of what you're doing, then your decisions become a lot more clear. Ill will towards others, it's a lot more difficult to do. Yeah, and we all have our days. That's all right. But if on the whole you're putting out a positive message, helping those around you, it all comes back around, right?
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing all that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. To our audience, thank you for tuning in. After this, please join Matt while he gives you insight into his yoga practice so you could reap the rehabilitative benefits of yoga and his teachings. Also, don't forget to leave comments, click that like button, subscribe for more content, and hit that notification bell for future episodes. Please be well, practice self-care, and follow safe social etiquette. See you next time, and namaste.
Namaste. Thank you.
When we're dealing with tight areas of the body, it's always important to remember that these are areas that are built up over time. So it's repetitive motions or positions that we do throughout the day. For musicians, definitely if you have a dominant side that you're playing with, if you're sitting a lot, as well as like your everyday office worker, these are built up over time. We got to break them down in the same way. That being said, kind of the two biggest problem areas that we encounter are generally up in the shoulders and through the hips. So remember, the shoulder is the joint, the area that's tight is the muscles around it. And just like with the hips, the glutes, hamstrings, hip flexor muscles, those all get tight in the process of supporting our body. So that's what we're gonna get into today. A couple of my favorite exercises both involve the yoga strap. If you don't have a yoga strap, it's totally okay. You can always use the towel as well, just kind of ring it up and just making something that you can loop around or have a little bit of tension on as well. Otherwise, you can also go pick one up. They're not too expensive, great tool to have. And I'll just give you a couple exercises you can do with them today. So first things first, very easy, just a bit of shoulder flossing. So the nice thing about the strap is it allows us to get a full range of motion as well as a bit of tension on to make it a bit more of an active release. So with your strap or towel, just take it out to length. So your hands are going to be just about a bit wider than shoulder width apart. We're going to take that strap up overhead, keeping that tension on, really important there. And then basically just flossing it out, so getting some range of motion going. So off to the side is always great to get into the lateral edges of the body, kind of freeing up some areas. From there, you can take it behind the back if you have the room. This might be a little bit hard at first, but that's okay. You can always give yourself a little more length to work with on the strap. So basically just free play with this one. It's really easy. So you can take it up and over the body, all the way back down. Like I said earlier, you can do the side bends, freeing up some space, and just moving naturally with what feels good. And doing this every day in the morning, at night, before you go to bed, or if you're watching TV is always nice. And as you start to open up, you can bring in a little bit more. So rotations around the body are always nice as well. Once again, we want to keep that tension on the strap the entire way through. Anything you do, always go back the other way, keep it nice and even. So just sort of flossing out the body, engaging those muscles and releasing, a little bit of a push and pull. So next thing we're going to explore is the tightness in the hips. So this is kind of a three-parter, 3 different exercises on each side, stretches on exercises, all using the strap and just letting our body open up and once again getting into those tighter spots that are built up over time. So first things first, we're going to start with our right leg. So we're just going to open up by taking hold of the top of the shin, highest point kind of just below the knee, and gently drawing it up towards the chest. When we're doing this, we want to keep this left leg active as well. So the motion there is a little bit of an inward roll of that left thigh. So if it feels like it's kind of sliding off to the side, getting lazy, Little roll to center, and then like you were lightly kicking a wall through the left heel. So just a little press through the bottom. With the right shin, knee is coming upward. We want to keep our hips level, so if the right side kind of hikes up too high, just so you can slide it a bit down on the mat. The knee is going to press out against the hands. The hands are going to pull the knee in, and we want to spread our shoulders on the floor, so kind of get them as flat as you can. So I'd start off here, anywhere between 5 and 10 breaths, just letting the body open slow. The next progression, we're going to take our strap or towel, and we're just going to make a little bit of a loop. So we're going to be putting that around our foot, and more specifically, the ball of the foot. So if you're unfamiliar with that term, the ball of the foot is referring to these two little nubs here beneath your big toe and the pinky toe side. So if you think of your foot, it has 4 corners, 2 at the bottom, 2 at the top. That's what we're pressing into most of the day to keep our balance and stability. So we're going to wrap the strap or towel around. Make sure you're covering both of those. So once again, beneath the big toe and the pinky toe side, depending on your foot, it might be a little bit diagonal. That's totally okay. And we're going to use that kind of as a focal point to open ourselves up in this one. So the nice thing about the strap and the towel is you can give yourself some length. We're going to get that leg up as straight as it will go. If you are having trouble keeping the tension on with the strap, you can wrap around the wrist a couple times, or the same thing with the towel. And a common misconception with these is that it's something to pull with and kind of yank our body to go further. What we really want to use it for is as a point of contact, something to press into. So how this one is going to work, we're going to point upward to the ball of the foot. So once again, big toe, pinky toe side, little nub beneath each, that's pointing upward. And your toes are going to flex wide. So it's like a flex and point. You could call it a floin if you wanted to, sort of like a dancer's foot. Using that in cohesion with the breath. So on the inhales, flexing and pointing upward, little contact with the strap. And no need to force it. Exhale, just kind of letting the leg go a little straighter on its own accord. So remember, as I said earlier, tension is built up over time. Has to break down the same way. By holding the pose longer, we give the body a bit more time to acclimatize to the shape and keep opening up. So I would say in this one, anywhere from 10 to 15 breaths. If it feels really good, you're always welcome to stay longer, even anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. And the longer you hold, those little point and releases, the more your leg will come a bit straighter. And you might even draw it a little closer towards the chest. As I mentioned earlier, let's not let that left leg get lazy. If there's some range of motion you want to play with in the foot, we can always roll the thigh back and reapply the kick through the heel. So after doing this one for a bit, we're going to start getting into the interior edge of the leg. So some areas like the groin, the hamstring, we're going to try and open that up. So we're going to keep the tension on, so that foot is still pressing upward. And we're just going to hike this left leg up for support. So we're going to walk the heel nice and close towards the glute. Tension is still on the strap. And we're just going to let this left knee fall open about 30 to 40 degrees to the left side, acting as a bit of a counterbalance. If the tension does get to be too much in the pose, you're always welcome to place a cushion underneath this left thigh for a little bit more support. In regards to our strap or towel, we're going to hand it over to just our right hand now. So you might loop it around a couple times again to maintain that tension. We'll take a breath in, pressing upward. And with the exhale, just kind of guide that right leg open, falling toward the right side of the ground. So go real slow this one. It's going to be pretty tight at first. Once again, you're welcome to put some cushioning in under that right thigh for support. And you don't want this leg to go too low. You want it to be almost at the hip height, maybe just a shade down. Once again with the strap, something to press into. Same motion. Point through the ball of the foot, little flex of those toes. As you breathe into the shape, this inner thigh is going to start to roll a little more upward toward the ceiling. That's totally okay. And if you want to make it a bit more of an active release, you can imagine as if the strap was applying a gentle downward force on the top of your foot. Your foot is going to press back up into the strap. So on the inhales, we're bringing that connection together. And you'll see with the exhale that leg will just gradually open a little bit more toward the side. So once again, 10 to 15 breath. Stay longer or less, whatever suits you best. Third progression. We're going to take it across for a twist. So you can use the strap to guide the leg back. Nice little support method. We're going to take the bottom leg straight again, so reach it down. Nice and straight as it will go. We'll switch our hands. So the left hand will come on. We're going to wrap it around a few times. The right arm is now your counterbalance, so put it out to the side. Big breath in, and as you exhale, draw the leg across the body, and we'll twist toward the left side of the mat. So it doesn't matter how far you go. You might not get this far off the bat, that's totally okay. Once again, you're welcome to put cushioning in underneath this leg if it's uncomfortable being in the air. Spread wide on this one, and once again, on the inhale, you're pressing out the foot of the strap. Exhale, softening into any new space. A couple things we want to watch for. The right hip. If it feels like it's kind of rolling up towards the rib cage, you can take your right hand just to the top of that hip joint. Big breath in with the exhale, kind of just roll it away a little closer towards the bottom. So by doing that, giving ourselves a little more room to take that leg further across. Another thing you can add on is that kick again through the bottom leg. Just sending the heel towards the bottom of your mat or whatever you're lying on. And once again, just giving yourself a little more room to get over. 10 to 15 breath. Let's let that open up. When you do feel done, guide the leg back. You just let that strap or towel go. And in between as a reset, just take hold of both shins, draw them in towards the chest, give yourself a big hug. You can take a little rock, a little roll, anything that feels good. And when you do feel reset, you can make your way to the other side.